Hello and welcome to the first Printing from Home series. My name is Tyler Green. I'm the Education and Community Programs Manager at Highpoint Center for Printmaking. Today we're going to learn a type of monoprinting. So first off, I've got a little drawing, a nice little fern picture here, and I've got some printing paper. I've got a student grade Mulberry. That's going to work great. You can use all sorts of different papers for this. Really, it just has to hold up to wet media. We want to make sure our printing paper and drawing line up. Notice how I left a little extra on the left side. We will trim that off once we're done printing. I have some watercolor paints here. You can use any type of watercolor. You can also use acrylic paint, oil paint. You can use all sorts of different things for this type of printing. It's very versatile. I've got some brushes here, of course. And I've also got some water to water down my watercolors. I will use a plexiglass plate as my printing surface. A piece of Mylar or something like that will work too. And I've got a wooden spatula to actually press down and print. I'll also use my hand a little bit. You can use a metal spoon, of course your hand, really anything that's going to help you get some extra pressure down. I've got masking tape and painter's tape to help out with things too, to hold things down. So now I'm going to put my drawing underneath my plexiglass. I'm using this gridded cutting mat to help line everything up. And then I will tape down that plexiglass because I don't want that to move. I could instead, on the back, tape the drawing to the plexiglass. Then I could move my printing surface around if I wanted to. Okay, now I'm going to line up my printing paper. I want to make sure things line up. I'm going to line up the corner of my printing paper and my drawing paper. Okay, now I will take some tape and tape one edge. I'm going to tape that extra edge, the edge that has a little more space. Pro tip, you can make a little tab on the end of your tape, so the next person who grabs it will have such an easy time. Okay, now we've got a little hinge. I'm going to crease down the edges so that it flips over nicely. Look at that. Okay, now it's time to start painting. I'm going to put out a whole palette of different colors. So I have everything ready to go when I start painting. Oh yeah, I need a rag here that's going to help regulate my water. It's going to help dry off my brush. Okay, let's start off with a little bit of yellow here. Get that ready and we can start painting onto our plexiglass, onto our printing matrix. So let's flip that over. I'm going to press down just with my hand at first, kind of test things out. Look at that, we've got an impression. This will be a pretty gradual type of printing. So I want to fill that in a little bit more. Press down, we're going to use the wooden spatula to add some more pressure. Get a more solid transfer. Okay, that's looking nice. Now, as I'm going, we want to keep a good pace. Notice how I'm only doing a couple things at a time. I just did 4 little leaves there. You want to have a good pace because you can only print this watercolor while things are still wet. If things dry, they won't print anymore. You could reactivate watercolor with some water if you'd like, but once it dries it's going to be difficult to impossible to actually print. So I'm just doing one little section at a time, keeping a nice pace going, filling things in. Your paper, as you're rubbing on it, may start to break down. So I'm going to use some newsprint to put on the back of my printing paper to help the paper not break down on me. So now, since that paper is between my printing paper and my spatula, it's protected. And my paper is going to hold up just fine at this point. Now I'm using these pretty nice watercolor paints. You can use those little dried palettes of watercolor, those ones you probably used in elementary school. They work great for this too. The tubes are nice because they are much more opaque. They won't be as transparent as those other ones. Acrylic paint should work just fine too. The difference with acrylic paint is it won't reactivate with water once it dries. Something I really like about watercolor paints is you can always keep activating it. So even on my printing paper, I could go back into that with water. Okay, here I'm printing the bleed edge of my print. See how that goes right up to the edge there? I was careful about printing that. May be helpful, especially doing a bleed print, to use an X-acto blade to help lift up that corner. We want to be real careful when doing a bleed print like that. Whoops. Okay, I think that's looking good. So we'll untape this and see what it looks like. Okay, not too bad. All right, so the last little step here is going to be to trim that extra edge off. So I'll just use an X-acto blade. I've waited till my print dried, of course. I don't want to mess up my image. Trim that little guy off, and we'll see how it looks. All right, there we have it. Very fun. Let us know if you have any questions, and of course, show us the prints you make yourselves. Happy printing, everyone!